If you have an insecure attachment style, take a walk with me. And this is something that pops up quite often in my comment section. The anxious attacher will often see what they believe to be the good in the person or the potential of that person, the potential of what that person is capable of or who they'll be in the future. And this is the beginning of a story that's going to continue to run in the background of your relationship. They may even check a lot of the boxes for your preferences. And we talked about this in the 21 Day Self-Love Challenge, where you have 10 boxes of preferences that are important to you. Of those 10 preferences, how many does your person have to have? And the number came up between 3 and 5, because the overall likelihood of hitting 10 out of 10 is slim. It also takes into consideration that people are deeply nuanced. And so it's going to take time to get to know them and their inner workings. But it also takes time to cultivate the evidence of their potential, what they've done in the past that supports what they're capable of doing in the future. And of course, how they're showing up in the present moment with you. One of the problems the anxious attacher often has is that they tend to live in the past, or they live so far into the future that they're not quite seeing what the relationship is in the present. They see their partner as this romanticized future version of how things are going to be. And this happens because there's too much uncertainty in the present moment. We just don't know what's going to happen next. And there's this subconscious fear of abandonment or rejection. And in order to avoid the abandonment or the rejection, the anxious attacher will do everything in their power in that moment to make sure that that doesn't happen. And so you might shift into people-pleasing mode. You might find yourself keeping track or keeping score of all the things that you're doing for your partner, but they're just not reciprocating back to you. You'll end up feeling very frustrated and resentful. And that resentment will grow because the other person isn't living up to their end of the bargain. Their actions in the present moment aren't lining up with your future expectations of them. And in the very beginning of the relationship, there was probably a moment where you thought to yourself, I can fix this, I can change this, or I can save them. That if this person could just receive your love, that it would shift everything in their lives and make it better. And then sometimes subtly, sometimes not so subtly, you work to try and change the other person. The way they act, the way they talk, the way they dress, the way they show up in the relationship. And of course, this is where people start to argue, and they'll say things like, well, if asking for the bare minimum was too much. But hold up. Let's go back to the beginning, back to when you were dating, back to the times before you started complaining. There was probably not just one thing, but multiple things that you didn't like about this person. And this is usually around a core value that you carry with you, or a personal standard that you've set for yourself. And after all the Jonah Hill stuff, we can say that we confuse those things with boundaries sometimes, where you want the other person to change physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually so that you can feel good about them, but then you can also feel good about you being with them. But the reality is, there's just things you don't like about this person. But maybe a few months have gone by and you're already in it. You've already invested some time and you don't want to start dating all over again and try something new with somebody else because that's just too much. It's like that meme I posted the other day. I have to finish the story. And a big part of this is just learning to recognize that you need to cultivate a little bit more self-awareness about the situation that you're in so you can pull back a little bit, assess what's going on, and then begin to trust your discernment and make decisions for yourself that are in support of your highest good. But I want you to know I'm not blaming you for anything, and you haven't done anything wrong. Your attachment style's potentially been activated, and you have this scarcity mindset that if I don't make this relationship work, then I may never have another one. And with 8 billion people on the planet, that's just simply not true. There's always going to be another relationship. And it's supposed to be that way, because when you work to improve yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, you begin to raise your vibration. You become a different person. The blinders come off and you have more access to opportunity. And if you don't believe me that this is possible for you, try not trying to change people in the comments section. Stop giving so much time and attention to the things that make you feel small. And then get outside and go for a walk. That's how you begin to take your power back.